Ever feel like you're just drowning in information, but still missing the crucial bits?
Yeah, totally.
That's where we come in.
Mm.
Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to understanding what really matters.
And today we're plunging into a really fascinating and still unfolding story from Taiwan.
Hmm.
It's all about these allegations of draft evasion involving several pretty prominent celebrities.
Right.
We've looked at a whole range of news reports: TVBS, NUWS, CH51, TTV, NUWS, TBDS, TO, and Now News. Basically trying to piece together the core of what's happening.
Exactly. So our mission today is to really unpack this for you. Who are the key players? What exactly are the methods they allegedly use to try and, well, bypass their mandatory military service?
Yeah, and what does it all mean? What's the bigger picture here?
We're aiming for those aha moments. Okay, so let's kick things off. The first domino, maybe. The case that seems to have ignited this whole investigation. Wang Talu.
Right, Wang Talu. So reports indicate that the actor allegedly spent a pretty significant amount of money. We're talking millions of new Taiwan dollars.
Millions. Wow.
Yeah, apparently to get a medical certificate, falsely claiming he had high blood pressure or maybe heart issues.
Okay.
And this was reportedly, a direct attempt to avoid his mandatory military service.
But here's where it gets kind of interesting, right? Despite this alleged effort and all that money, he is actually serving now, well, alternative military service.
That's right.
And get this, he was recently spotted at a public event right alongside another celebrity, Xu Guanghan.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. Xu Guanghan, who's just about to finish his service honorably.
Exactly. The contrast is pretty striking, isn't it?
It really is. The news reports definitely highlighted Wang Talu's seemingly melancholy vibe at the event. You can sort of picture it.
Yeah.
One guy finishing up, getting praised, the other serving this alternative way after allegedly trying to dodge it completely. It certainly makes you wonder.
About the different paths, maybe how they feel about it deep down.
Exactly. And the reports also mentioned he was trying to avoid the cameras.
Yeah. Not exactly thrilled to be in the spotlight at that moment, it seems. So this initial look into Wang Talu, it didn't just stop there, did it? It seems like it opened up something much bigger.
Oh, absolutely. It seems the investigation into his case kind of peeled back a layer, revealing potentially a much wider group.
A network.
Yeah, a network of celebrities suspected of doing similar things. The media is even calling it a draft-dodging industry chain.
An industry chain. That sounds organized.
It does suggest something more systematic than just, individuals acting alone.
So people helping them do it, intermediaries.
Exactly. That's what's fascinating. The name Xian Chuxian came up specifically in connection with Wang Talu's case.
Okay.
It paints this picture of facilitators, maybe even a playbook for how to get out of service. And there's also suspicion that medical professionals might have been involved somehow.
Wow. Okay, so this alleged industry chain.
Yeah.
Any idea of the scale? Money-wise?
Well, the estimates mentioned in the reports are pretty high, nearly 10 million new Taiwan dollars potentially involved overall.
10 million NTD.
That's a lot.
It is. And what's also really noteworthy is that the price tag for allegedly getting out of service wasn't the same for everyone.
Oh, how so?
It apparently varied depending on how famous the celebrity was.
Seriously, like a tiered system.
Kind of, yeah. It suggests maybe the intermediaries thought it was riskier or maybe just worth more to help the bigger names. More scrutiny, maybe deeper pockets.
Right. And Wang Talu being quite famous.
It seems he might have paid a premium, according to these reports.
Okay, so Wang Talu was maybe the spark. But who else got pulled into this? You said it was a wider group.
Yeah, the news outlets have named several others implicated in this investigation. Let's see, there's Chen Tatian, who's also known as Xiaoxi.
Okay.
Chen Lingchu, sometimes called Chen Linji. William from the group Lollipop.
Lollipop F, right. Then there's Degen, Ahu, Chen Xiangxi, a stage actor named Teddy, Yuan Hongposhi, and a model, Chen Xinwei.
That's quite a list. So do we know any specifics about their alleged involvement? What did the reports say?
Okay, let's break it down. For Chen Tatian, Xiaoxia, the reports mentioned a very public apology. Lots of bowing.
I think I saw footage of that.
Yeah. He was released on bail, 250,000 NTD. And apparently, when the authorities were looking for him, they reportedly found him hiding out at a friend's place.
Oof. Not a good look.
Not really, and there's talk his upcoming stage play might be in trouble, especially since he'd apparently said publicly before that he planned to do his service. Kinda awkward.
Yeah, that definitely clashes. What about Chen Ling Chu? You said his situation was dramatic.
A bit, yeah. He was apparently the last of this initial group to be brought in. Reports said his phone was off at first.
Which always raises question.
Right.
Hmm.
His company put out a statement saying he was busy, preparing a new album, which, okay, maybe he was, but it didn't really address the draft evasion stuff directly.
And William from Lollipop F. He wasn't even in Taipei.
No, he was filming way out on Green Island when this all broke.
Wow, okay.
He did come back to Taipei for questioning, though. His company also initially just said he was, on location. Looks a bit different now, maybe?
Yeah, the timing.
Yep.
Okay, now, Degen's case had a bit of a twist, you mentioned.
It did. So Degen was abroad initially and denied everything.
Okay.
But then later, he apparently admitted using medical excuses back in 2023 to avoid service. He cited work commitments as the reason.
The work excuse.
Yeah, and he's also reportedly expressed remorse. It kind of brings up that whole pressure cooker environment in entertainment, doesn't it? Priorities and all that.
It does. What about the others? Ku, Chen Chenwei, Teddy, Yuan Hanko Shi. Any details there?
Who was also reportedly taken in for questioning. For Chen Chenwei, the model he used to be with Elin Entertainment, his old boss, actually came out emphasizing, the duty of national service.
Making a clear statement there.
Seems like it, yeah. For Teddy, the stage actor, and Yuan Hanko Shi, the reports mostly just mention they're implicated in the investigation without tons of specific detail released yet.
Gotcha. So it feels like there's a common thread here in how they allegedly tried to evade service, something medical.
Yes, exactly. The reports strongly suggest that the main tactic, the go-to method for many of them, was faking high blood pressure readings.
High blood pressure, okay? How would they even do that? What were the alleged methods?
Well, the reports described a few pretty deliberate techniques, like running or doing intense exercise right before the blood pressure check to artificially pump up the numbers. There are also allegations about using stand-ins, like getting someone else to wear those 24-hour home monitoring devices to generate false readings over time.
Whoa, really? Like someone else wears the cuff?
That's the allegation, yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe even more disturbingly, some reports suggest they might have used medication to temporarily mess with their blood pressure just for the exams.
Man, that sounds incredibly calculated.
Yeah.
Were there, loopholes in the system they were exploiting?
That's what the investigation seems to be pointing towards, a potential weakness in how medical exams were handled.
How so?
It's alleged that maybe by setting up appointments outside the normal, officially assigned times, or going to different hospitals not chosen by the authorities, they might have found doctors, potentially, who were willing to go along with the scheme.
Which brings us back to the idea of collusion with medical professionals.
Exactly. That suspicion keeps coming up in the reports.
These are really serious allegations. We're talking legal trouble, right? What could happen to them?
Oh, definitely. The legal consequences for draft evasion in Taiwan are pretty significant. If convicted, they could face charges like forgery of documents, hindering conscription, stuff like that.
And the penalty?
The maximum sentence mentioned is up to 5 years in prison.
5 years. Wow. And does that stick even if they manage to avoid service for a while?
That's a key point. The reports stress that even if someone dodged service initially, if they're under 36, they could still be called up later.
So no guarantee they're totally off the hook, service-wise?
Not necessarily. Plus, there's the possibility of fines instead of jail time.
Fines.
Yeah, and that's actually stirred up some public debate. Is a fine really fair, especially for wealthy celebrities? Does it just create, one rule for the rich and another for everyone else?
That's a really valid question. Fairness and accountability, right? So how's the wider entertainment industry reacting to all this?
Well, the talent agencies, their responses have been pretty cautious, kind of standard PR lines, we're understanding the situation, cooperating with the investigation, that sort of thing.
Playing it safe.
Pretty much. But what's interesting is this reported contract within the industry. You have some newcomers who apparently see service as just, what you do, your civic duty.
Right.
And then you have these allegations against more established stars who seemingly tried hard to get out of it.
That could definitely cause some friction, I imagine. What about their careers, their public image? This has got to hurt.
Oh, potentially hugely. Public trust is everything for celebrities, right?
Right.
Getting linked to draft dodging. that can seriously damage your reputation.
Endorsements could dry up, roles.
Exactly. Loss of endorsements, acting jobs, just general public support. We're already hearing reports that might affect projects, like Chen Tatian's play we mentioned.
Yeah. This whole thing seems bigger than just these specific people, though. What are the sort of broader ripples in society?
Well, a big one is just this feeling of unfairness bubbling up among the public.
I can imagine.
People feel like, hey, celebrities have all these privileges, all this money, and then they allegedly use loopholes to skip out on something everyone else has to do. It feels unjust.
Yeah, especially when regular folks just have to serve.
Exactly. And it's sparking talk about maybe needing to change the conscription laws, close these potential loopholes to stop this kind of thing from happening again.
So actual legal changes could come out of this.
It's definitely being discussed. And then there's this idea of the snowball effect, meaning as the investigation rolls on, more names might come out, more people could get implicated. Reports are even hinting at a potential third wave of investigation.
Wow, so this might not be over by a long shot.
Doesn't sound like it. It indicates the story's probably going to keep developing.
Man, so this deep dive, it's really uncovered a pretty significant issue. It has huge consequences potentially for the celebrities, but also for Taiwanese society.
For sure. It started with one guy, seemingly, and now it's potentially blown open this much larger issue.
Okay.
It makes you ask some pretty fundamental questions about, fairness, responsibility, what it means to serve your country, and whether the system itself is working properly.
Okay, so let's just quickly recap then. We've dug into these allegations swirling around a group of Taiwanese celebrities accused of basically running a scheme to dodge mandatory military service, mainly using faked medical records.
Right, especially the high blood pressure angle.
Yeah. We've talked about the ongoing investigation, the methods they allegedly used, and the really serious legal trouble and social fallout they're facing now.
Yeah, it's a complex situation, and like we said, it's still very much evolving.
Okay, so here's something to chew on, a final thought for you listening. When you think about the basic ideas of fairness and civic duty, especially around something like national service, what does this whole situation really tell us? What does it reveal about what society expects from famous people, from public figures, and the responsibilities that maybe come with that fame and influence?
That's a deep question.
Yeah, try to consider all the angles, the celebrities, the public reaction, the system itself, and what the long-term impact might be, not just on them, but on everyone else too. Thanks for joining us.